There are moments in time when the veil between the living and the dead thins, when shadows stretch too long and whispers carry truths we were never meant to hear. This is one such moment, and it begins not with a scream, but with a silence too deep to ignore. In the heart of an ancient English town, a priest was summoned, not to save a life, but to battle a force that had already taken it. This is the story of the exorcism, the summons. The Reverend Father Denning had spent decades in the service of the church. A scholar, a man of logic and tradition, he believed in sin, in redemption, and in the power of prayer. But what he was called to witness in the early winter of 1886 defied not only doctrine, but the very limits of human understanding. It began with a letter, delivered by hand, no return address, the handwriting spidery, desperate. It simply read, "She is not my daughter anymore. Please, Father, come, before it's too late." The letter came from a retired colonel named Harwood, once a decorated officer, Her Majesty's Army, now a broken man in an aging manor on the edge of Wiltshire. The father, driven by duty and curiosity, agreed to travel. The journey was bleak. The trees stripped of leaves, the fog unnatural, clinging not only to the landscape but to the soul. Even the carriage horses seemed reluctant to approach Harwood, Manor snorting nervously as they neared the gate. The haunted manor. Harwood greeted him at the door. A tall man once proud, now pale, shaking, eyes sunken. He ushered Father Denning into the drawing room without a word. The house was cold, not from lack of fire, but from something deeper, as though the very walls repelled warmth. "She's upstairs," Harwood finally said, "but she's not the same." The priest ascended the stairs slowly, each step creaking underfoot. At the end of the hallway stood a door, cracked open. Inside was Clara Harwood, 19, once joyful, now gaunt, pale, and whispering in a voice that was not her own. Her eyes were not vacant. They were filled with mocking intelligence, ancient and cruel. As Denning entered, she turned her head unnaturally, like a puppet yanked by an invisible string. "So, the holy man has come," she said in a deep, guttural voice that echoed with multiple tones. The possession. Clara had not always been this way. A promising pianist, engaged to be married. But something changed after a visit to her aunt's estate near the coast. She returned quiet, withdrawn. Then came the voices, the visions, the inexplicable knowledge of things she had no way of knowing. "Father," Denning watched as her behavior grew increasingly violent. She would scream blasphemies in ancient languages. She moved objects without touching them. At night, they would hear her walking upside down on the ceiling, her hair dangling like a web. The doctor said hysteria. The local vicar said madness. But Denning, he knew. He saw it in her eyes. A presence. Not madness, but occupation. He requested the rite of exorcism. The church hesitated. But after Harwood sent a recording, an early phonograph cylinder capturing Clara, whispering the death date of the Archbishop of Canterbury, who died the next day, the Vatican relented. The exorcism begins. The ritual began on the third night of the new moon. A storm rolled in without warning, thunder shaking the walls of Harwood Manor as Denning stood before Clara, now restrained by thick leather straps bolted into the floor. He held the crucifix with trembling hands. "In nomine Patris et Filii, Spiritus Sancti." Clara's body jerked. The room went ice cold, her pupils dilated until her eyes were black voids. Then, she laughed. "You are too late," she spat, voice thick with venom. "She invited me, she gave me the name. You cannot unmake what was willingly done." The priest persisted. Holy water hissed as it touched her skin. Her veins turned black. Her mouth unhinged wider than humanly possible. Suddenly the furniture levitated. Books flew from shelves. The candles snuffed out. "What is your name?" Denning demanded. "We are many," it replied. The windows shattered inward. A wind howled, not outside but from within the girl herself. The battle for the soul, for 3 nights it continued. Denning read psalms as blood ran from Clara's eyes. Her voice changed hourly, sometimes childlike, sometimes ancient. She began to reveal personal secrets. Horrific truths no stranger should know. She recited Denning's childhood sins, the name of a girl he once loved, a prayer he whispered in shame at 17. "She sees you," the demon said. "The girl, the one you buried with your silence." On the final night, Denning knelt, exhausted, eyes hollow. He had nothing left except faith. He whispered the last lines of the ritual, tears mixing with holy water. "The power of Christ compels you. Return to the void. Leave this vessel." Clara shrieked, spine arching, her jaw dislocated. The smell of sulfur filled the air. Then silence. She collapsed. The aftermath. Clara woke with no memory. Her eyes, human again, soft, confused. But something in the room felt wrong, like an echo that had not faded. Father Denning left that night, unable to sleep ever again in silence. He would spend the rest of his life wondering if he had won, or merely delayed the inevitable. The church buried the case. The phonograph was destroyed, but Harwood Manor remained empty. To this day, no one stays there past nightfall. Locals say you can still hear Clara's voice, whispering prayers backward. Evil, you see, does not always enter with fury. Sometimes it waits for an invitation, and when it is welcomed, it leaves footprints that no priest, no rite, and no flame can erase. Would you have opened that door? Would you have dared speak its name? Because once you do, it never truly leaves.